The Arab Sugar Daddy and the Beautiful Indian Girl, a novel by Dr. Ahmed. This is a one-sided love story between a rich old Saudi man and a beautiful poor Indian girl. It has been written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. Ahmed. It is an epic romantic tale narrated in 6 books. Book 1. The Arab Sugar Daddy falls in love with a beautiful Indian girl. Copyright. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief passages from the review for printing in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. All characters in this novel are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Chapter 20. The Arab Sugar Daddy returns to search for his beautiful Indian Layla. Meanwhile, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed decided to do everything in his power to find out what happened to his precious treasure, his beloved, the beautiful Indian maid, who cost him dearly. He is 100% sure that Rayhana Khan wanted to come to Saudi Arabia because that is why she refused his money to sleep with him in the hotel and asked him for a maid visa. He concluded that the lying Jinni, who was also the son of Satan Muhammad Khan, had stolen Rayhana's visa and ticket and sold them to the ugly old Indian woman who claimed to be his beloved maid. In Islam, jinn or demons are genes that turn into black dogs and snakes, which was hated by the Prophet Muhammad, and Iblis is the Arabic name for Satan. Jinni is male and Jinniyah is female, and they can fall in love, marry Muslims, and have children with them. Many Muslim men and women have claimed that they married Jinni and Jinnah and had offspring with them, but no human being was able to see these half-devils and half-humans except their parents. Some of the jinn in the Quran converted to Islam and became Muslim devils. See Surat al-Jinn 72, verses 1 through 6. Mr. Muhammad Khan worked with Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed for many years in Jeddah City as his personal driver. Sheikh Ahmed knew that Muhammad Khan was a greedy man. He is the type of man who would sell his wife to another man if he offered him the right price. The angry Saudi sheikh decided to return to India and find the beautiful Layla himself and bring her back with him to Saudi Arabia. He knows that the one-eyed Sudanese boy, Babikir, nicknamed the damned black nigger, is more honest than the greedy Indian man, Muhammad Khan. He can use the Arabic translator Babikir to find out where his Indian lover, Layla, has been hidden from him. This time, Majnun Kais decided not to involve any travel agency in preparing for the trip abroad for his beloved Layla. He wants Babakir to handle all future preparation of travel documents for Rayhana and her daughter Ifat. As for the incredibly ugly old Indian woman, he took her directly from Jeddah International Airport to the women's prison and accused her of stealing and forging documents and impersonating the real Indian maid he had hired. It is an accusation that, if proven true in the local Sharia court, the fake old woman will be extradited to her country of origin, minus one hand. Accordingly, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed returned to Bombay a few days after the old impostor was handed over to the detention center. He did not call or tell anyone that he was coming in person, and decided to make a surprise visit to the Muhammad Khan Travel and Tourism Agency. But if he had anticipated what was waiting for him there, and what the Bombay police extortionist, the dangerous Hindu police inspector Shankaracharya, was going to do to him, the old man would have preferred to fly straight to hell instead of landing at an Indian airport, then go to a dirty cell like a bottomless pit. This time, the crazy lover decided that he would not seek the help of the law to recover his stolen money and the beautiful Layla. He remembered what happened to him when he complained against his ex-Indian Christian wife, Christy, who stole his money, cheated on him, divorced him, and expelled him from his palace in Bombay with her shoe on his ass. For months, as he ran from one courtroom to another, while her uncircumcised pussy got fucked day and night by her infidel lover's uncircumcised cock, Bobby. He spent thousands of dollars on endless court sessions, and in the end, he got nothing and instead caught wind. So this time he will take matters and the law into his own hands and punish those who stole his second Indian lover from him. He has to hire people from the Indian Gondas, who the thugs of the underworld in Bombay are to take revenge for what Muhammad Khan did to him by replacing his beautiful maid Rayhana, who is more beautiful than the Virgin of Paradise, whom his Quran promised would be one of 72 nymphs if he died as a Muslim martyr in jihad for the sake of God, and 40 virgins if he dies a natural death. He will have 72 of those eternal virgins in the Garden of Paradise and have sex with them forever. Instead of the earthly Virgin of Paradise, Rayhana, the eldest son of Satan, sent him the most hideous Indian woman he had ever seen. He must enlist the services of the thug Gondas as a last resort. If the greedy man Muhammad Khan refuses to repay him all the money he spent for the overseas trip of his beautiful maid, named Rayhana Khan, and her cute daughter, and also show him where the beautiful Layla was hidden from him. From Bombay International Airport, the old man took a taxi directly to Colaba in downtown Bombay. He booked a room at the 5-star Taj Mahal Hotel and stored his luggage on the spot. Then take another taxi and head to the travel agency. It is lunchtime when the rich old sugar daddy arrives at Muhammad Khan Tours and Travels place. When the mad Arab Qais arrived unexpectedly, Satan incarnate had already been arrested that morning, harshly and brutally interrogated by the Hindu police inspector, and his unconscious body dumped in the filthy barracks of Arthur Road Prison. The angry Saudi sheikh found all 8 employees alone in the office. When he asked where their boss was, none of them were willing to risk their jobs and tell him what had happened earlier that morning to their evil boss. The most daring and jealous girl, Roxana, put herself in charge of the office, but did not move to the office of her boss. She lied to Sheikh Ahmed and told him that her boss was not feeling well, which was the truth, and that was why he took indefinite sick leave. Sheikh Ahmed did not believe Roxana and asked her to call him at his home or call him on his cell phone so that he could talk to him personally or to his old Indian wife. Roxana told him that she'd been given strict orders not to disturb him unless an emergency occurred, like in case an employee died, or a major fire broke out in the agency, or Bombay policemen raided the place and arrested them, or the Gonda thugs gang-raped a girl, or all the female employees. The Arab man tried to pick up the phone from her table and call himself, but she stopped him and reiterated no one should try to contact him either by phone or messenger. Her actions have confirmed his suspicions that Mr. Muhammad Khan is hiding from him. He concluded that the greedy Muhammad Khan had coveted the remarkable beauty and the sexy body of Rayhana Khan. Therefore, he convinced her to forget about traveling to Saudi Arabia, and instead of being a mere maidservant to the old Arab man, he asked her to stay in India, and he promised to marry her and be his Muslim wife, number 2. When she acquiesced to his selfish demands, he took her visa and air ticket and sold them to the ugly old woman who flew to Jeddah City and falsely claimed to be his lovely Indian Layla Khan. Most probably, by now the wicked man has already married the lovely maidservant and taken her somewhere for a honeymoon and fucking her day and night by using his stolen money. It appears to be the same illness as Stockholm Syndrome that he experienced due to the infidelity of his Christian wife Christy and her infidel boyfriend Bobby. But this time, the angry sheikh has determined to take full revenge on the dirty Indian man who stole his beautiful woman and began to rape her for free. He has decided not to leave the same Indian snake to bite him twice. When he could not convince the stubborn girl Rukhsana to phone her hiding evil boss, Sheikh Ahmed left the travel agency and was determined to carry out his plan B of hiring thugs to pummel Muhammad to a pulp like yesterday's garbage. But he does not know where or how to find those dangerous Indian gangsters who are called Gondas. So he decides to seek the help of the Sudanese boy. He recollected in his endless fight with his former Indian wife, Christy, no one stood with him except the Sudanese boy. He returned to his hotel and waited until evening. He knows that Babikir will return to his hostel as soon as he gets off from work at the travel agency. He did not want anyone from the travel agency to know he was recruiting the Sudanese boy after hours for shady purposes. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the angry Saudi man took a cab from Kolaba, traveled to the international student hostel located near the church gate, and asked about his best friend. For over a year, Babikir al-Awar has been acting as a double agent or a spy. He spied on his boss and passed along a smorgasbord of information about him to Sheikh Ahmed, and he also supplied some personal information about the old man to Muhammad Khan. For example, he told his boss about Sheikh Ahmed's Christian wife, the lovely Christy, who cheated on him and stole his money and property and kicked him out of his mansion as an unwanted guest. He told him about how she called the cops and kicked Sheikh Ahmed out of his opulent house and then married her Christian boyfriend Bobby. Likewise, Babikir told Sheikh Ahmed about his boss's adulterous affair with the married Hindu woman Sangeeta, who is cheating on her husband, and how he is sexually harassing his female employees. Since the information that Babikir passed back and forth from the old Saudi man to his wicked boss, and from Muhammad Khan to Sheikh Ahmed, is mere gossip, none of the two parties was affected by it. That particular day, Sheikh Ahmed took Babikir to a beautiful restaurant in the Hotel Ambassador, treated him to an excellent meal, and then asked him about the case of his missing maidservant Rayhana Khan and why Muhammad Khan was avoiding him. Babikir is scared he may lose his job if he discloses information that his detained boss may not want to be revealed, remembering how a small lie caused his boss to call him a fucking black Negro slave and kicked him out of the office. Therefore, he decided he had better create a foolproof story, half-truth and half-lie, better than the last one he told to his boss, and he discovered later that he had shot himself in the foot. This new invention must be an even greater creation and harder to verify. And so, the story begins. He said his Indian boss had truly worked hard and prepared the paperwork of the maidservant and her daughter, and he was a witness to Rayhana picking up the visas, passports, tickets and money. Mr. Muhammad Khan was supposed to meet them at the international airport and see them off. But he did not go because his girlfriend or mistress from Bangalore showed up unexpectedly and requested that he meet with her in her room at a 5-star hotel, which he then changed his plan about going to the airport. Babikir told the truth up to this point, but now is here where the lies begin. His Indian boss sent Jamal Khan in his place instead. But as we know, it was Babikir himself who was told to go to Bombay International Airport. At this stage, the Sudanese boy threw in a rumor mill of saucy tidbits. Then the one-eyed Babikir told the Arab old geezer Sugar Daddy something that he claimed had been transmitted to him from his beautiful, ugly Indian girlfriend, Jamila, whom he loved but she did not love him, and he did not know whether what he heard from her was true or not. Whether fact or rumor, the Sudanese boy claimed during the preparation of Rayhana's travel papers, she developed a strong emotional attachment to one of the male employees in the office, a handsome boy by the name of Jamal Khan. The ugly Jamila, who is his beautiful Indian girlfriend, swore by Allah and the blindness of her beautiful eyes that she saw the two of them sitting by the seashore hugging and kissing in the open and in broad daylight. The Sudanese boy purposely does not want to tell Sheikh Ahmed he was the one who had witnessed Jamal and Rayhana kissing and hugging on the seashore of Marine Drive. He also did not tell him he was the one who reported these things to his girlfriend, the ugly Jamila, and that she was the one who passed the information on to the other girls. The one-eyed Sudanese boy deliberately did not want to tell Sheikh Ahmed that he was the one who saw Jamal and Rayhana kissing and embracing on the beach on Marine Drive. He also did not tell him that he was the one who informed his ugly girlfriend about these matters, and that she was the one who passed the information on to the other girls in the agency. Now here, Babakir is going to drop a bomb, but he decides to be careful and place it in a way to prevent his old Saudi friend, who is madly in love with the beautiful Muslim maid Rayhana, from having a heart attack and have to be rushed to the hospital. That would cause him to end up having to pay the bill for the expensive food they had just eaten together in the hotel restaurant. Here, the Sudanese lad has recollected how angry became the Arab sheikh when he lost his first Indian wife Christy, who left him and went with her infidel lover. At that time, he didn't leave a stone unturned while trying to get her back, but he failed. Therefore, Babakir told Sheikh Ahmed that the girls in the office are spreading some rumors that Jamal and Rayhana ran away together to another city. Adding another lie of his imagination, he said Jamal and Rayhana by now most possibly have gotten married and settled down somewhere in India. When the Sudanese friend finished his half-truth and half-lie story, Sheikh Ahmed's heart stopped for a few seconds. He stared at Babakir as though he was seeing an apparition, and his body became cold, and his hands began to shake. When he tried to speak, his voice failed him. He has been choked up from being half sad and half angry. His emotions betrayed him, and he could not control the tears dripping down into the palm of his hands, having lost another opportunity in love. All of a sudden, the sad saga of his lost lovely Christy and her infidel dog Bobby was reborn again in his beautiful Rayhana and her handsome Jamal. Babakir was astonished when he saw the old man weeping. He did not know how much Sheikh Ahmed cared for the lovely Rayhana until he saw those tears. He wondered what he should do, as he felt the old man grab hold of his hand and pull him close. Then Sheikh Ahmed said to him in an incredibly angry voice, that of an old ogre, "This time I decided not to resort to the law to get back my beautiful miss. I know the right people who can bring my maid Rayhana Khan to me in less than a week. I want you to help me find the place where my beautiful Indian Muslim woman is hidden from me. My dear Sudanese friend, Babakir Hussein Osama, I want to confess to you a secret buried in my heart, because I trust you. I have never loved a woman as I love this Rayhana. Not even my former Christian wife Christy had received the same love I am feeling towards this Indian maidservant. Besides, the former is an infidel Christian woman, and this new girl is a Muslim woman. So I want you to show me where I can find the Gondas." "Gondas!" shouted Babakir, while trying to free his hand from the firm grip of the old man. "Yes, Babakir," said Sheikh Ahmed, "only the Gondas can do this kind of work for me. The Indian policemen are corrupt, and the law is helpless. You know how I was humiliated when I lost my home and my property to Christy, the Christian woman I took as a wife. She took advantage of me when I had to give everything. I gave it to her gladly. What did the law do for me? While I was fighting in the court for over a year to get the due process from the law, she was getting fucked day and night by that uncircumcised infidel pig who is called the dog Bobby." "But Gondas are dangerous criminals. They kill people," cried Babakir. "They don't kill those who are paying them, do they? I'm not going to ask them to kill anyone. I just want them to get my beautiful Indian maidservant back to me. If they kill anyone who tries to deter them from bringing my beloved girlfriend to me, I do not care. My friend Babakir, you must believe me, I have become like the Arab madman Kais when I found by mere chance this beautiful Indian Layla in Bombay." Babikir al-Awar has now regretted feeding the old man lies. He wished in his heart, instead of one blind eye, his tongue had been cut too. But it is too late. He decided to try and convince Sheikh Ahmed to forget about the Gondas. No matter how much Babikir tried, he could not convince the angry old man to leave this idea alone. Finally, he gave up and decided to help him find some Gondas to aid him in his dirty work. The Sudanese foreign student happened to know some Gondas in the Vakola area. He had come to know about them when another Sudanese student got into some trouble with them. The Sudanese student used to tease the landlady from whom he rented an apartment. He once improperly touched her sexy body when she came to collect the rent from him. The Indian woman got so angry that she paid some Gondas to beat him up. The Gondas approached the Sudanese student and tricked him by telling him that his brother in Saudi Arabia had sent him so much money and nice new clothes. Those valuable things have been sent to him through an Indian who works in Saudi Arabia and just arrived in Bombay. Then they asked to come to a certain place to meet the messenger and get his stuff. The Sudanese student believed the Gondas and went with them, where they told him that the person was waiting to deliver the hard currency and costly items to him. They lured him away from the main roads and beat him severely. They left him for dead on the side of a dusty, dirty lane. Luckily, a good Samaritan who happened to pass through the lone pathway found the unconscious body of the foreign student and rushed the boy to the hospital. The case was reported to the police, but the police did nothing about it. The problem Sudanese students encountered living in that area was that once the Gondas beat them up, they became marked as a never-ending target. Wherever you go, they will come after you until sooner or later you are dead. Some Gondas would consider all your friends and your family members to be their enemies too. They are like the Somalians, in that once they began to fight with you, then they would fight with you forever. The virtues of seeking forgiveness, love and mercy do not exist in their hearts. So, to avoid any further bloodshed, the Sudanese students decided to take the student who had been beaten up and meet with the Gondas. They apologized, begging for forgiveness on their knees, and paid them some ransom money to forget the whole thing. The Gonda guys accepted the money and the apology, and the problem ended there. The beginning of a beneficial relationship between the Sudanese students and the Gondas was the result. Babikir happened to be among those students who went and sought forgiveness from the Gondas. After that, whenever any Sudanese student had trouble with anyone, his Sudanese friends would go to the Gondas' gang of thugs, pay them a sum of money, and ask them to get rid of the problem. Whether your insoluble problem has to do with the law, a woman, or the devil himself, those thugs are sure to settle the score in your favor. Babikir is at a loss as to what to do when he sees the old Arab man in tears and getting angrier by the minute. He felt obligated because his lies are the key that put the wheels in motion, and now he is in the driver's seat, headed down the path of no return. He would be the main operator of this dangerous vehicle once he decided to assist the revenger of broken hearts. Babikir remembered the Vakola Gondas. He told Sheikh Ahmed he knew some Gondas and took him to them. The madman Kais is prepared to pay the Gondas whatever they asked for if they could get him his beautiful Layla back. He told them to find Muhammad Khan and hammer the shit out of him until he paid back the money he stole from him. Sheikh Ahmed's rage demanded that all the employees of Muhammad Tours and Travels except Babikir be beaten at will. To save his Indian girlfriend, the ugly Jamila, from being beaten and probably raped by the ruthless Gondas, Babikir convinced his Saudi friend to take all the employees off the hit list except the real culprit, Jamal Khan, who is suspected of stealing the lovely maidservant and running away with her. It seemed that everyone in Bombay wanted to harm Jamal Khan. Before he went to jail, Mr. Muhammad Khan hired some cold-blooded Gondas and told them to find the prime suspect, give him a good beating, and deliver him directly to him bound hands and feet. He also sent Jamal's photo to the most popular newspaper outlet in Bombay and requested he be publicized as a wanted robber and rapist. On the following day, everyone in Bombay cuts out the article in the newspaper and carries it around with him everywhere he goes, hoping to find the most wanted criminal in all of India and get the reward of 10,000 rupees. Mr. Muhammad Khan had also derived a long list of crimes Jamal is alleged to have committed and lodged a complaint with the Bombay police. This set up a citywide search and an all-points bulletin by every police precinct. Every cop in the city is after the so-called kidnapper of the lovely maidservant Raihana Khan and the rapist of the lovely female employee Bulbula Sheikh. In addition, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, through the help of his Sudanese friend, approached the Vakola Gondas and paid them in advance 10,000 rupees. He promised to give them another 15,000 rupees after they found Jamal beat him up and snatched the most beautiful maidservant in the Indian subcontinent. The relentless madman Kais told the Gondas he could care less if the kidnapper and rapist Jamal Khan got killed during the returning process of his beloved Layla Khan. While the whole city of Bombay is searching for Jamal Khan, he lies half dead already in police custody. Ironically, it is the safest place for him for the time being. If it came to the knowledge of the Gondas, he is in jail, they would either use their contacts inside to kill him or send someone on the outside to murder him. Obviously, for the Gondas, the best place to catch and kill someone is in prison. Gondas are the most dangerous people in India. They are not just gangsters or criminals. Their membership included a combination of corrupt cops and the residue of gangs and thieves who got their start robbing passengers on trains and buses, trucks and farmland. The former Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was able to break up this crime syndicate to some extent when she called on the military to occupy the trains to protect innocent citizens. Those soldiers were armed to the teeth and prepared to do battle with those dangerous highway robbers. They were decimated, and those who survived the all-out warfare sought refuge in the cities, becoming today's Gondas. They modified their tactics and adopted some police methods. They are like the police would help get back stolen items or find people that have run away like a wife or a daughter or offer protection from someone who wanted to kill you. Even if you are indicted on serious criminal charges, the Gondas could ignite fear in the hearts of judges, lawyers and prosecutors or bribe them to get you out of jail without conviction. Gondas specialized in killing police. When the number of slain police officers reached the highest on record, the government of India adopted new laws to protect police from being completely wiped out by the Gondas. The new law is called an encounter. That law allows the police to shoot and kill the Gondas whenever they meet them face to face. Although that law reduced the number of slain police officers, it created another serious problem, which resulted in the killing of many innocent citizens. The police misused the law of encounter and abused their authority. Many innocent citizens were falsely accused and killed by police as Gondas. Whenever someone wanted to get rid of a person, he could bribe the police to say he is part of Gondas and kill him in an encounter. The police would kill the person and plant a knife or gun on him or a sword or axe and falsely claim he is a dangerous gangster or Gonda. The whole city of Bombay is in search of Jamal Khan for the bounties that have been placed on his head by Mr. Muhammad Khan and the madman Kais, Sheikh Ahmed. Raihana Khan too is a wanted person, but her photo has not been published in the newspaper. Wherever she is to be found, she is to be captured, safely taken away from her kidnapper and handed over to her Arab lover and the highest bidder, Sheikh Ahmed. While the nationwide hunt is on for the two lovers, they are dying inside Bombay jails from the torture pangs inflicted upon them by the police extortionists who are euphemistically called police interrogators. They are worse than the Gondas and crueler than the devil and his demons. Chapter 21. Doubts on the terrorist charges. Luckily, The dangerous Hindu police inspector Shankaracharya by chance has found one of the daily newspapers. He is dumbfounded when he read the prime suspect, Mr. Muhammad Khan, is offering a huge reward to anyone who would direct the police to the hiding place of his employee, Jamal Khan, who had stolen 300,000 Indian rupees from him and raped one of his female employees, a beautiful teenage girl by the name of Bolbola Sheikh. This news refuted his theory of a terrorist plot and threw a wrench in what he thought was a foiled terrorist plot. He has determined to get to the bottom of this quagmire before he totally discards this possible terrorist strategy. Therefore, he found and interviewed the alleged rape victim, Bolbola Sheikh. If Jamal Khan had truly raped the beautiful Bolbola and robbed her of costly jewelry, then he would not be a terrorist. If Jamal did not rape and rob the female employee, then he is a terrorist. One of these two assumptions is the premise of his terrorist theory. For him, Jamal Khan is either a rapist or a terrorist, but in no way is he an innocent person. When the long arm of the law and religious fanaticism are combined into one mind, it becomes the worst of both worlds and a deadly combination. That is the fanatical mentality of the police inspector Shankaracharya, the dreadful son of the Hindu gods. The lovely Bolbola Sheikh became frightened when the Hindu police inspector approached her and asked her whether she had been raped and robbed by someone from the travel agency. The police told her they have some information regarding her rape and robbery, but did not mention the name of the alleged rapist. Bolbola is afraid to talk or reveal what had happened to her because she knows that if she would say she had been raped by someone, then the police would take her into custody for further questioning. She heard that any girl voicing any sort of dispute or complaint or involved in some sort of misdeed, the police would take her in for questioning and she would be gang raped by many cops inside the lockup. She would also put her job in jeopardy and her poor family in serious trouble. So, she thought the best thing to do was to leave her Allah to avenge the injustice done to her and punish her rapist, the devil incarnate. By then, all the other girls in the office had heard that the beautiful Bolbola had stayed alone in the office with the boss and had sex with him. It was the ugly Jamila who falsely claimed she had seen with her beautiful eyes her boss and Bolbola lying bare naked and having sex on the floor of the office, just like a male dog and a bitch or a cock and its hen. Therefore, the female employees had a strong reason to believe the incident occurred, but when the police came and took the beautiful Bolbola aside and questioned her about the rape case, the girls understood why their boss had gotten arrested and hauled away. They concluded Bolbola has filed a rape complaint with the police and accused her boss of forcefully and brutally raping her. Before that, they thought Bolbola had agreed to have sex with her boss because he paid her some amount of a few thousand rupees. But they are puzzled with one question. Why would Bolbola keep coming to work every day after she complained about the boss raping her and then sending him to jail? However, for the police, the answer to this question is quite clear, and the answer to the Hindu police inspector's questions is just as crystal clear. After the beautiful Bolbola denied the information reported in the newspapers, the inspector's assumptions of a terrorist plot solved the mystery of the fake rape and robbery. He concluded this cock and bull story was created by none other than the diabolical genius of a homegrown terrorist, the suspect Muhammad Khan. When Muhammad came to know the police had foiled the terrorist plot and arrested Raihana Khan and his employee, Jamal Khan, he orchestrated this bogus rape and robbery story to refute the confessions of his accomplices to relieve himself of any involvement. As soon as Police Inspector Shankaracharya connected all the dots and crossed all his T's in these carefully conceived deliberations, he decided to announce these new developments to the public and involve the media. Before that day, the arrest of the 3 alleged Muslim terrorists was kept hidden from the media people. The next day, the photos of Muhammad Khan, Raihana Khan, and Jamal Khan were published on the front page of every newspaper in Bombay City. All TV channels have also mentioned the foiled terrorist plot. This sensational news story included many other details connecting the Indian Muslim suspects with other international and notorious terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Taliban, and even Pakistan's ISI, Inter-Services Intelligence, are hinted at as being involved in the female suicide bomber plot that was targeting an Air India flight on its way from Bombay City to Jeddah City. The envious girl Rukhsana is the one who read the morning newspaper first and showed the disturbing news to the other 7 employees. But none of the 8 employees believe these trumped-up charges. All of them know Jamal Khan is a peace-loving and law-abiding young man. Although he is a Muslim, he is not a deeply religious boy. He smokes cigarettes and has a beautiful girlfriend. The two lovers hug and kiss openly in public. In the same way, Raihana Khan is a Muslim woman living in a slum hut, but she is not all that religious woman either. She had no problem with being hugged and kissed in public places, and if given the opportunity, she would not hesitate to have sex with her lover and live in cohabitation with him without the prohibition of halal Islamic marriage. She has never dressed up in an Islamic burqa or a hijab or niqab. You could not tell by the way she dressed if she was a Muslim woman, Hindu or Christian woman. She put on whatever she liked. One day she came to the travel agency in a Punjabi dress, and on another day she would be wearing a sari. Likewise, the boss made himself out to be a devout Muslim man, and yet he is a notorious womanizer. He harassed all his female employees in one way or another. He also has a Hindu mistress, another man's wife, with whom he convoluted with her on many occasions in her room at the Oberoi Hotel. He is a cheater and a thief, always cheating his customers. He is making more money in that illegal way by deceiving his Arab clients. He is too busy cheating people to be bothered with spiritual matters, and he certainly could not be bothered with religious lunatics like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Taliban, and Al-Qaeda. No one could ever convince his employees that he loves his religion enough to blow up an airplane. They thought about why he would want someone to blow up an airplane. He would not blow himself up even for 72 virgins in heaven when he has more virgins than he could handle right here on earth. His sex-drive penis is greater than the fires of hell, and no woman can sexually satisfy him. Accordingly, all 8 employees concluded there had to be a gross misunderstanding, or someone just wanted to pin a terrorist conspiracy on innocent 3 Muslims. Meanwhile, the breaking news published in the local newspapers directed Vakola's Gondas gang to the hideout of the boyfriend Jamal Khan and his girlfriend Raihana Khan. Then the Gondas approached Sheikh Ahmed and pretended that they had, after much searching, unearthed the hiding place of the 2 lovers. They found out from inside sources that the woman, Raihana Khan, and her lover, Jamal Khan, had been arrested a few days ago and at present are kept under police protection because of what appeared to be initially a false news report, and everyone in India is seeking a reward for their capture. Since both of them are in special police custody, there is nothing they can do to get them out. They then demanded the rest of their money. Because of his bad experience with his beautiful Christian wife Christy, the old Arab man becomes smart against the tricks of scammers and concludes that the Genders gang is trying to cheat him and steal his money. He told them to get his lovely maidservant Raihana out of the jail first and help him smuggle her to Saudi Arabia, and then he would give them the rest of their money. The thugs then confessed that the news circulating about Raihana Khan and Jamal Khan was that they had both been accused of terrorism. They said even the Prime Minister of India could not remove a person out of prison who is involved in a terrorist plot. Sheikh Ahmed is still unwilling to pay them. The Gondas then threatened to kill him instead. Following the wise advice of his Sudanese friend, Sheikh Ahmed chose to save his life and paid them the remainder of the money he had promised, which is 15,000 rupees in cash. and thus ended his illegal dealings with them. As soon as the Gondas left, Babakir pulled Sheikh Ahmed aside and showed him the newspaper that carried the photo of his beloved Indian Layla, who is called Raihana Khan, and the article concerning her involvement in a terrorist plot. What troubled the old Saudi was not that his beloved Layla was in jail undergoing unpleasant conditions, but what scared the hell out of him the most was that his name was also mentioned in the terrorist plot as clear as day. He is mentioned as a foreign terrorist who is a member of Al-Qaeda who supplied visas, tickets, money, and other needed materials and explosives to the female suicide bomber, Raihana Khan. It also revealed in the article that he is the one who paid over ₹1 million to the Muhammad Tours and Travels and convinced its owner, Muhammad Khan, and another male employee, Jamal Khan, to prepare the travel papers of the young female suicide bomber. When he read these details and false charges against him, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed wished that the earth would have opened up and swallowed him whole, and then regurgitated him back in his holy homeland of Saudi Arabia, where he would be protected by his countrymen. At that critical moment, he began to hate the beautiful Muslim maid, Raihana Khan, and bitterly hated the day he met her on a street in Kolaba, Mumbai. He also cursed Muhammad Khan and cursed every Muslim Indian he ever knew in his whole life. He asked Babakir, how could those accursed Muslim beggars and uncircumcised Hindu idol worshippers ever dare to involve me in such a dangerous terrorist plot? After he had overcome his anger, shock, and disbelief, Sheikh Ahmed began to solicit his Sudanese friend and lean upon him even more than before. He asked him how he could escape from this dangerous trap that had been set for him by the schemes of criminals and the Indian police. Babakir told him the only way possible out of this was to approach the anti-terrorist police department and tell them that he was an innocent man and had nothing to do with the terrorist plot. That is the last thing the petrified old geezer is prepared to do. He knows that to go to these corrupt Hindu lawmen and plead not guilty would be setting himself up for endless torture, only to be falsely accused and hanged as a Muslim terrorist. When Babakir understood that the frightened old man was not willing to go to the police, he advised him to make his escape out of India through the Pakistani border. Sheikh Ahmed left the 5-star hotel of the Taj Mahal without showing he was checking out and renting a car. He told Babakir that he would give him ₹500,000 if he would accompany him on his trip from India to the Pakistani border and help him reach his destination safely. Babakir told him he could not risk going on such a dangerous trip and put himself in jeopardy even if he had to give him ₹10 million. I just can't take such a high-risk trip like that with someone like you who is wanted all over India and every cop in the cosmopolitan city of Bombay is after you. This wrong decision of Babakir has terminated the beneficial friendship between the once good friends. When Babakir rejected the offer and left, Sheikh Ahmed found a Muslim Indian and bribed him. He convinced the man to help him to rent a car and be his private chauffeur because he said, I want to tour your magnificent country of India. He said that his final destination would be Kashmir because he heard people in his country saying Kashmir is the paradise of God on earth. As a matter of fact, Kashmir is the disputed region between India and Pakistan. There are over 1 million Indian soldiers and more than 10 million Indian and Pakistani terrorists in that lawless land. The number of Muslim terrorists in Kashmir is more than the combined number of Muslim terrorists in Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, Libya, Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, Iraq, and Syria. In the past, Kashmir was truly once called God's paradise on earth, but today is known as hell in the entire universe. Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed's escape to Pakistan had been carefully planned and thought out, But he would have been better to do as Babakir suggested and contact the anti-terrorist police of Bombay to explain his dilemma of being falsely involved in the alleged terrorist plot and throw himself on the mercy of the Hindu police inspector Shankaracharya and the Indian Criminal Court. Before he could make a clean getaway out of the city, it did not take long for the fugitive Arab man to be arrested by the Bombay police. On the same day he planned to flee, Bombay police intelligence investigations became aware through international airport authorities that he had arrived recently from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Further investigation revealed that he had booked a room at the Taj Mahal Hotel. When the police inspector Shankaracharya and his men raided his room at the hotel, the wanted Saudi sheikh happened to be with the Sudanese boy in a restaurant somewhere in Colaba. The Indian anti-terrorism police kept undercover police officers stationed at the hotel and maintained a city-wide vigil on this threat to India's security. The hotel also supplied the police with a copy of his passport, which contained his photo. The photo and the passport information have been displayed throughout the city on billboards and shown on all local TV channels. Even the radio stations announced the warrant for his arrest. The anti-terrorist police have placed a bounty of 50,000 rupees for any good citizen to reveal his hiding place. The same person who leased the car reported him to the police. It did not take the police more than a couple of hours to find the rental car, and Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed has been arrested, along with his Indian Muslim driver, and thrown in a prison cell, beaten up and tortured to death. The one-eyed Sudanese Babakir's decision not to help the old Saudi saved him from being involved in a serious terrorism charge. Chapter 22. The trial of those Muslims accused of the alleged terrorist plot. To be arrested in India for whatever crime, no matter whether you have done it or not, whether you committed an iniquity or have broken the law, whether you are falsely accused or caught in the act of committing an offense, you are guilty until proven innocent. It is exactly opposite the legal system all over the world. It is supposed to be the suspect is innocent until proven guilty. But in India, the outcome of the initial interrogation will be the same. You are a criminal until you prove your innocence and are acquitted by the court. Through their harsh third-degree interrogation method, the Indian police would force you, if your body were made out of iron, to admit to the charges of which you have been suspected. They would make you sign your confession, and then the prosecutor would establish a case against you in court. Once again, if you paid your lawyer well, he could then bribe the judge handling your case, and whether you are guilty of a crime or innocent, you would be acquitted. From the time you were arrested until the final adjudication of the court verdict, it could take years. During the time you are on remand, you would be stuck in jail for years, beaten up every so often and roughed up by other criminals and gondas. Whether you are male or female, you would be raped by those sexually frustrated suspects and convicts. Of course, the female will be gang-raped by the blackmailing officers while being interrogated in a dark room and will then be raped by her male guards. She might also be raped by some lesbians. To escape imprisonment, repeated rapes and brutal beatings, you would need to bail yourself out and buy your freedom until the final hearing of the trial. If you are rich enough, you could pay a huge amount of bail and save yourself a whole lot of trouble. If you are a foreigner and paid your bail, you would be forced to surrender your passport and attend every hearing required by the court. If you are an Indian, you have to be present at all scheduled hearings, and you could not travel out of the country. Hearings would take place every 3 to 4 months as a formality. The court clerk will call out your name, and when you hear your name, you would just need to hold up your right hand and shout at the present, or "I am here," and stand up for the court judge to see you. Then the judge would more than likely glance at you and announce yet another day for the next hearing. After that, you would be free to go only to present yourself in court again after the other 3 or 4 months. Then you would have to do the same thing over and over again for the next assigned hearing date and leave again. This procedure would continue for 3 to 5 years. If you asked a lawyer or a police officer why it takes so long for your case to get to its final trial, they would just give you a reserved smile and tell you that suspects who got arrested 3 to 4 years before you got apprehended are still waiting for their final days in court. The 4 Muslim suspects, Raihana, Jamal, Muhammad, and Sheikh Ahmed, had been all subjected to harsh interrogation methods to admit their involvement in a terrorist plot to place a female suicide bomber on an Indian airline flight on domestic soil and blow it up in midway between Bombay and Jeddah. Those confessions that had been extracted out of their bleeding mouths, dislocated jaws, and broken teeth and noses through brutal tortures had become facts in court. Raihana and Jamal were not financially able to hire lawyers to defend them in court due to their abject poverty. Nevertheless, they are more than lucky to have rich suspects accused along with them in the same case. If the Saudi wealthy business tycoon, Sheikh Ahmed, and the Indian rich man Muhammad Khan is proven innocent, then Jamal Khan and Raihana Khan would automatically be acquitted. Therefore, the same lawyers defending the wealthy suspects are also the de facto defenders of the lovers, Raihana and Jamal. If you are a rich man, then you are above the law, whether compensating authorities to get away with a crime or rewarding a rape victim to keep her mouth shut. It is a corrupt system operating behind closed doors. You can even buy the Wizard of Oz behind the Iron Curtain. Never before in the history of India's justice system has a court case been brought to such a rapid conclusion as this one. The case of the Muslim female suicide bomber has been tried and concluded in just a few short months. Many reasons led the Bombay courts to push the case to the top of the waiting list and render a judgment in 6 months. The first reason is that Saudi Arabia exerted enormous influence over the trial. And there are rumors that the richest Arab country paid money to the Indian government or threatened to expel all Indian diplomats and close the Indian embassy and consulates if the case was delayed. The trial was not decided in favor of the Arab defendant, the Saudi Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, and soon. Rumors also have it that the Saudi government would rule to deport all the over 2 million Indians who are working in Saudi Arabia. The second reason is that the lawyers of the wealthy suspects paid a considerable amount of money and bribed the judge of the High Court and the jury. In addition, the high-priced lawyers for the 4 suspects presented a good line of defense that no prosecutor could refute. Firstly, the first woman suspect, the alleged female suicidal bomber, Raihana Khan, is a slum woman and uneducated. She could not possibly be involved in such a sophisticated plot to blow up an airplane. Moreover, she was taking her 7-year-old daughter, Ifat Khan, with her on the same plane and leaving her 5 sons alone with her parents and in-laws who could not work or provide for them. Also, if she wanted to kill herself so she could kill others, why did she want to kill her young firstborn daughter too? Secondly, the 4th suspect, Jamal Khan, is not a religious boy and has never been to a mosque in his whole life. He neither prays 5 times a day nor fasts during the holy month of Ramadan. He smokes daily and drinks alcohol occasionally, and the lawyers presented evidence obtained from the stores of non-Muslims such as Hindus and Sikhs, where he often purchased cigarettes and liquor bottles. Thirdly, the lawyers also provided proof of an ongoing love affair between Jamal and Raihana. The lawyers provided eyewitness testimonies of the lovers kissing and embracing on the beachfront, in restaurants, and in movie theaters. Some of these witnesses are the Sudanese student Babikir al-Awar and his Indian girlfriend, the ugly Jamila al-Kabeha. Both placed their right hands on their holy Quran and testified that they had seen Jamal while he was kissing Raihana on her lips by the seashore of Marine Drive. This scandalous love affair between a widowed Muslim woman and a Muslim man who is not her lawful husband is one of the biggest taboo and haram acts in Islam. If they are in a Muslim country, they would be stoned to death. Moreover, none of the two Muslim lovers is a devout believer, and this fact strengthens the argument that neither of the two is committed enough to his or her religion to be wanting to blow up a plane full of innocent people. Fourth, the second suspect, Mr. Muhammad Khan, likewise has been proven in court to have been engaged in an adulterous affair with his Hindu female lover. Testimony supplied by the management of the five-star Oberoi Tower Hotel verified the illicit relationship between him and the married Hindu woman Sangeeta Dasia, and he drank so much at times that he had to be helped back to his hotel room. He is also a chain smoker and was asked on several occasions to step outside and smoke because of the many complaints from restaurant guests. The lawyers presented hundreds of unpaid bills and receipts from dozens of hotels, restaurants, liquor stores, and nightclubs in downtown Bombay. This is strong evidence supporting the fact that he is living a wild and immoral life, a debauched lifestyle far from the lifestyle mandated by Islam. In a Muslim country like Saudi Arabia, such a sinful Muslim man might be beheaded for his abominable transgressions. Sixth, the third suspect, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, was also proven in the courtroom to be an irreligious person and a playboy. Some of the hotel staff testified to this fact, and the lawyers brought forth their testimonies in open court. Often, he would bring prostitutes and street girls in Colaba to his hotel rooms and spend the night with them in fornication and orgies, completely naked, like King Pharaoh or the dissolute Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid. Even his problematic marriage with his former Indian Christian wife was used as a testimony against him because she was 20 years old and he was 64. It sounded like female child abuse through an Islamic marriage rather than a mutual marriage between spouses of close ages. Although such a kind of matrimonial union is morally wrong and socially condemned, it was still a legal marriage, and no court in the world could condemn a 64-year-old geezer for marrying a 20-year-old girl as old as his granddaughter. Seventh, all the official papers that had been found with Rehana Khan indicated that she was supposed to fly to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on a maidservant visa and be a domestic help to one of Sheikh Ahmed's 3 Saudi wives. The other 3 suspects verified this fact by their testimonies in court as well as employees of the passport office. Rehana Khan's papers were prepared legally, and she did not obtain those papers through any illegal means. They were truly gifted to her by the wealthy business tycoon Sheikh Ahmed, because he wanted her to come and work as a maidservant in one of his mansions in his country. Eighth, the strongest evidence that led the court to drop the terrorist charges and acquit all 4 suspects is the return of Sheikh Ahmed to India. If he is the mastermind behind the alleged terrorist plot, financier and supplier of bomb-making materials, why did he return to India after his alleged accomplices were arrested? Added to that, the Indian police could not find the explosive device that the female suspect is supposed to use to blow her body up in bits and pieces and also explode in smithereens the passengers of the Air India plane. At any rate, 6 months in Bombay jail was the most painful experience that the beautiful maid Rehana Khan had to go through in her entire life. During all the years of suffering that she lived with her late husband while alive and after his death, she did not suffer as much as she did in prison. She was beaten, tortured, gang-raped, and deprived of basic human necessities. She was abused by policemen and female prison guards, and treated as a traitor to the Indian homeland by prison staff and other suspects and convicts. The guards often beat and insulted her, and sometimes spit in her face. They accused her of trying to blow up an Indian Airlines plane and kill innocent people. No one believed her words when she pleaded her innocence. It is nothing short of a miracle that she survived for 6 months in that treacherous environment among dangerous female criminals and hostile tormenting guards euphemistically called the Indian jail. What disturbed Rayhana, especially during her imprisonment, and caused her to spend sleepless nights and unbearable days, was her worry about her 6 children and her 4 elderly parents. How will they live without someone to help take care of them? Who will be the breadwinner, and where will they get food to eat? She left what little money she had with her parents, and on the day of her arrest, she was planning to give them what Indian money she had. Unfortunately, the police officers who arrested her helped themselves with Indian money and the few US dollars she received from her benefactor, old Arab Shagar Daddy, on the day she was supposed to travel with her daughter to the rich Arab country. They are 200 Indian rupees and 30 US dollars. Rayhana thought that there was just a small misunderstanding and that she would be allowed to go to her hut once this small misunderstanding was cleared, and they would fly out of their hellish country of India that same night. She never expected that she would be imprisoned for such a long time. What disturbed her conscience most was the fear that her young daughter would be raped at night by some of these outlaw boys in the slums. A policewoman sent her daughter Ifat to her hut after she was beaten and slapped, and some information was extracted from her mouth, which was bleeding profusely. Rayhana knows that her elders will not be able to stop these boys if they break into the house at night and try to rape her young daughter. She also knows that her neighbors in her poor shack will not come to her rescue if she screams for help. Slum dwellers are afraid to death of thugs called horrific jandas. Even the Indian police are afraid of ruthless gangsters. No slum dweller would put his life in danger by coming between the gang of jandas and their intended victim. After her release, Rayhana went straight to her poor hut. She found that some of her young children had become beggars. 3 of her relatives have died. She lost her father and her in-laws. Only her old mother is still alive. Her mother told her that she was the one who sent her sons to the streets to beg to feed the family. The mother refused to let Rayhana's daughter take to the streets for fear of being raped at that young age by sexually frustrated, worthless Indian men. These unemployed men who have not found any woman who loves them or agrees to marry them will not hesitate to rape a dog, a goat, or a donkey. Fortunately, on the day of their arrest, the police returned the daughter to her poor hut immediately after questioning and told them that she was going with her mother on a trip to help her work in the homes of some Arabs and collect some money, strewn on the streets like garbage in Bombay. Rayhana cried day and night over her poor family's grief while she was in prison. She had no one to send them any letters, to inform them of what was going on in her miserable life the detainee, and the reason for her arrest. She learned from her tormentors, the police, that Jamal Khan was arrested on the same day she was arrested. Before her arrest, Rayhana was a simple-minded servant with a pure heart. She didn't hate anyone. But after her unjust arrest and the horrific cruelty of the brutal beatings and brutal gang rapes she endured in prison, she began to hate, with every bone in her body, those responsible for the injustice done to her and her loved ones. She cried bitterly as she thought of the suffering and hardships that her 6 children and 4 elders would have to endure without her. She cried even more when she learned that the handsome young man, her lover Jamal Khan, who had given her the happiest days of her life, had also been falsely accused, arrested, brutally tortured, and thrown behind bars like a slumdog, a vagrant, a criminal, and a frequenter of prisons. Chapter 23. The Second Chance in Luck. Despite what had happened, the beautiful Indian Muslim maidservant Rayhana Khan never forgot her sugar daddy, the old Arab man who gave her the life's important opportunity which could be fulfilled by her flying to Saudi Arabia and working in his palace. His promise is still resonating in her heart. After her release, she took her mother and returned to the police station where she was detained on the day of her unlawful arrest and asked for the return of her visas, tickets, passports, and money. The appalled Hindu police inspector Shankaracharya, who arrested her, became hostile and shouted that he would arrest her and her mother if she did not leave, and it would be better for her never to see his face again. Raihana no longer has a lawyer to represent her in court or file a formal complaint to regain what is rightfully hers. There is no one to fight for her rights against the ruthless, illegal system of evil. When the unscrupulous lawman did not return her travel papers, she concluded that her chance to go to the rich country of the Arabs is gone forever. After losing hope, the Indian maid Raihana returned to the homes of the rich and began working for them again, enslaving herself for long hours during the day and part of the night. Some families refused to give her work again due to her involvement in an alleged terrorist plot. During her long working hours, Raihana always remembers her handsome boyfriend, Jamal Khan. She wondered if he was willing to accept her as a lover again, after all the trouble he had gone through because of her. She believed that his only sin was his love for her, which is why he was arrested and imprisoned for helping her in her desire for a better life in a rich Arab country. She also doesn't expect the travel agency that prepared her papers to be interested in helping her again. She also concludes that the old Saudi man who freely gave her visas and tickets to heaven probably isn't interested in having her as a servant in his palace anymore. She believes she has given him so much trouble that he will never want to see an Indian woman again or step foot on the ground she walked on. She used to see him every now and then whenever there was a criminal court hearing with the other Indian suspects. It was several weeks after Raihana Khan was released from prison and allowed to return to her slum hut. She wakes up every day at 5 in the morning, goes to work in the homes of rich people, and does not return to her poor neighborhood until 9 in the evening. She forbade her children from going to train stations and local streets to beg. Her daughter Ifat once again became her 5 younger siblings' babysitter, cooking their food and washing their clothes. The same sad and evil daily life that she had in her previous days repeats itself day after day. She felt cursed and condemned to a life of abject poverty from the day she was born. However, one day, the sad maid returned at 9 o'clock in the evening and found a visitor waiting for her in front of her poor hut. He was the last person on earth she thought she would see again. She doesn't know his name, she doesn't know how to speak his language, and has no idea what language he speaks. He is called the damned black nigger, the one-eyed Sudanese boy, Babakir. How did he know where she lived? How could he, with his height and huge body, walk in those narrow lanes and poor, horrific huts? At first, the maid Raihana became afraid of him and did not want to shake his hand when he extended his rough black hand to her. She kept herself at a safe distance from him and continued to stare at him as if he was a dangerous alien from another planet who was about to attack and rape her in front of everyone. Many poor Indians had already gathered around him and looked at him as if he were a frightening wild animal emerging from the jungle. Some of these poor shanty dwellers had never seen a black person before. Raihana doesn't expect him to speak her language either. However, her curiosity tripled when she started hearing him speaking to her in broken Hindi. With great difficulty, she understood some of what he was saying. She had understood the words visas, tickets, the old man, and Saudi Arabia. She even heard him mention the word Indian passport. Despite this, Raihana does not trust him, thinking that he is trying to take her somewhere alone and rape her. The black color of his skin and his strange African features made her distrust him even more. Many Indians believe that the African man is a sex maniac or a wild animal who has no control over his sexual drive and will attack and rape any female who comes near him. Some of them believe that every second a black man feels sexual desire or gets wild sexual excitement and can have sex with 20 women at the same time. Therefore, he is a person with a lot of lust and animalistic sexual desire and is always looking for some sexual satisfaction. He is a pedophile who loves to have sex with underage males and females, bestiality with animals, and even necrophilia with dead women after exhuming their bodies from their graves. The African boy repeated each sentence he spoke 10 times before Rayhana could understand what he was saying. What she understood was that he wanted to give her the same travel papers she used to have and help her fly to Saudi Arabia and work as a maidservant with the kind old man who met her in Colaba and decided to help her to come to his country. Although she is still extremely afraid of him, she realizes he is the only person who has thought of her and has come to look for her and offer her the same life opportunity of traveling to a petrodollar country where she is going to be a rich woman. Then she and her family would live a better life. Neither her lover Jamal Khan nor the owner of the travel agency has come to look for her and offer her another chance at anything. Still, she is afraid to be alone with this black man whom she barely knew. But after much hesitation, Rayhana agreed to take the risk and meet the Sudanese boy on the following day at the bus stop that was not far from her slum. Babakir told her to meet him at 10 o'clock in the morning and not to bring anyone with her. Rayhana refused his suggestion and told him she could not come alone and insisted she had to bring her little daughter with her. She believes if this black man jumps on her and tries to rape her in broad daylight, then her little daughter might either scream and call people to come and beat him up and rescue her mom. She might also run away and find a policeman and report the assault and rape of her defenseless mother. The so-called dangerous sexual pervert black man unwillingly accepted her condition and then said his goodbye and left. More than 30 emaciated kids and 20 hungry dogs followed behind him. That particular night, all the poor people in the tight-knit slum huts community collectively manufactured their usual run of back-alley gossip. The black Negro boy has come to ask the beautiful widow Rayhana Khan for sex. With the help of the same wicked Muslim and most holy policewoman of Allah, everyone's opinion of Rayhana evolved around her having sex on the street, like a bitch with many dogs. Now this sex-deviant black African man showing up at her slum hut has confirmed their nasty rumors and opinions once again. It is worth repeating that many Indians think Africans are extremely dangerous men and are notorious sex fiends and dangerous sex perverts. Therefore, any Indian girl who has been seen walking anywhere in a public place with a black man in India is considered a prostitute. Well, let us not dwell for now in trying to analyze and refute these erroneous and racially biased preconceptions, but let us continue with the plans of Rayhana and Babakir to meet on the next day. When Rayhana met Babakir the following morning, he took her to a restaurant and talked with her for a long time, being repetitive in his long-rehearsed Hindi. With quite some difficulty, he tried to communicate to her that the same old Saudi man who had provided her before with tickets and visas to Saudi Arabia is still interested in giving her work as a maidservant in his rich country. Babakir told her that the old Saudi wanted to know whether she was still interested in coming to his country and being his Muslim maidservant. Before answering, Rayhana asked Babakir to tell her where the old man was. He told her about the old Saudi after his release had gone back to his country, but then a week ago he phoned him in his hostel and requested he finds her and tell her his offer still stands and the job is still hers if she wants it. The African boy also told the lovely maidservant it took him a full week to find her slum hut. Rayhana then gladly accepted the offer on the same condition she had made previously, that she would need her 7-year-old daughter Ifat to come with her also to Saudi Arabia. The African boy promised the lost and found lovely Indian Layla he would advise her Arab sponsor, the madman Kais, about her desire to bring her small daughter with her. That day, the Sudanese boy did not allow the lovely poor woman and her small cute daughter to go until they agreed to have a tasty meal with him at the restaurant. Then, he asked Rehana to meet him again in a week at the same restaurant and at the same time. He said he was going to contact her benefactor through the phone and inform him about her consent and demand, and at the end of 1 week, he would let her know his reply. Before we go any further, 2 important things need to be mentioned right away. Firstly, Babakir was kicked out of the travel agency by Muhammad Khan's wife, who took over the business while her husband was in jail. It was her wicked husband while he was suffering behind bars. He asked his wife when she came to visit him in his dungeon to kick out the so-called fucking black Negro. What is more, the number of employees has been reduced to 5. Muhammad's wife also fired 2 girls without giving them any reason for their being fired. The other employees could see why his wife had fired the beautiful Bolbola Sheikh and the sexy girl Tabassum Sirajuddin. They are 2 exceptionally beautiful girls and stiff competition for her husband's sexual pleasures. Although the not good-looking Mrs. Khan pretends to run the office and be the female boss, the main person running the business is the envious girl Rukhsana Rehman. Of course, the wife did not kick out her ugly younger sister, the mean girl Jamila. Secondly, after his release from jail, Jamal Khan wanted to return to his work at Muhammad Tours and Travels, but under the order of his detained boss, Mr. Muhammad Khan, the ugly wife refused to hire him again. The evil boss said to his wife, Jamal had committed a conflict of interest by falling in love with the maidservant. He was fired and told he was not entitled to receive any severance pay or benefits. Next, we need to mention quickly that after the trial was over, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed returned to his country and swore by his Allah that his feet would never again touch the dirty soil of the land of the infidels and accursed Hindu idol worshippers. He began to hate Hindus with a passion because the police inspector who tortured him during his interrogation was a Hindu. He came to know about his religious affiliation by his last name, Shankaracharya. He understood that Shankar is one of the Hindu gods. Although he now hates Hindus, Hindustan, and all Indians, the Arab Kais has never forgotten about his beautiful Indian Layla, and he is determined to get her by all means, even if it cost him his life. He has no one to trust in India anymore, except his old friend, Babakir al-Awar. After he came out of the hospital, he phoned his Sudanese friend and apologized to him for the misunderstanding that terminated their long friendship. The old geezer knew it was Babakir who had left him in his difficult time by refusing to help him escape from India through the Pakistani border. Because he needs him, the old man ignored that small mistake of his friend and decided to use him to find his lovely Layla and send her over to him in his kingdom of Tartarus. By the way, as soon as he got released from the Indian dungeon, the Arab sheikh returned to his homeland and went directly from the airport to the King Fahd Royal Hospital. He was exhausted from the long trial and the difficult time he spent in the filthiest prison in the whole world. He had been treated off and on by the brutal beatings he received in jail and the hundreds of ailments and infections he contracted while there. It is also worth mentioning that Babakir suffered a lot after he got fired from his job. His financial struggles started all over again, and ever since he got fired, he has been having an exceedingly difficult time. Again, he began to depend upon his Sudanese friends to help him out, and they were not happy about his never-ending penniless condition. After his ever-mercurial rich friend called him and apologized for all the misunderstandings, some hope shone in his life once more. Sheikh Ahmed promised to send him some money regularly if he managed to find his beautiful Indian Layla, who is called Rehana Khan, and get her travel papers reissued over again so she could come to his mansion and work for him as his adored maidservant. The old Saudi swore by Allah he would send him 15,000 rupees to start with as a token of goodwill. He said to Babakir, the much-needed lovely Indian Layla was worth the money and expense, and he requested her services as quickly as possible. He would take care of everything and all the costs of preparing her papers and documents. This time he said to Babakir that he did not want any filthy Indian Muslim to prepare her travel papers. He specifically mentioned them each by their names, namely Muhammad Khan and Jamal Khan. He told Babakir that neither of them should know of these new arrangements for his precious maidservant Rayhana to fly to the kingdom of the Saudis. After some days had passed, Babakir was able to locate the slum hut of Rayhana Khan, and he called Sheikh Ahmed and presented him with good news. To be extolled for his efforts and make Sheikh Ahmed feel overly indebted to him, Babakir recounted to him all the troubles he went through to locate his maidservant. He mentioned how he had to use Gondas to help him in locating her slum hut. As a matter of fact, Babakir would never have found Rayhana Khan if he did not get the assistance of an Indian because of his poor Hindi language skills and his African ethnicity. He sought the help of a lawman to locate the slum hut of Rayhana. He bribed a Muslim police constable and asked him to direct him to the place of the young Muslim woman who was falsely accused of the recent terrorist plot. His given reason is that he is a foreign reporter from a Muslim country and wanted to have an interview with her for a cover story for a news article. He said further to receive sympathy from the Muslim constable that the mission of the article was to show to the outside world, especially the Muslim world, how the uncircumcised infidels in the nation of India wrongly accused an innocent, peace-loving and law-abiding poor Muslim woman. The Muslim constable, being moved by his love of Allah's chosen people, believed in Babakir's claim and promised to help him in finding Rayhana Khan. After 1 week of searching, the constable found out where the former suspected female suicide bomber Rayhana Khan is living, and he then took Babakir to her slum hut. Babakir thanked him, gave him some money, and asked him to leave. The reason was that he did not want Rayhana and her family to see him coming to their hut with a policeman. Sheikh Ahmed praised Babakir over and over, and he almost started crying. He then told him he would be sending the work visa and ticket for Rayhana and the 15,000 rupees he promised to give him as a token of goodwill. Then the African boy mentioned the important demand of Rayhana before she would travel to work as his maidservant. The old man immediately agreed and said, "Bringing her daughter with her will be an additional blessing to me from the exalted Allah and our gracious Prophet." Babakir did not suspect any ulterior motives on the part of his Saudi friend, when in his dirty mind the old geezer praised his Allah and his Prophet for the coming of Rayhana's 7-year-old daughter, that he thought it might become like a paradise for him and hell for her. Chapter 24. Searching for her handsome lover. Through Western Union, Sheikh Ahmed sent 25,000 Indian rupees to Babakir and asked him to give 10,000 to Rayhana and keep the rest of the amount for himself, due to his great efforts in finding her. He sent between 50 and 70,000 rupees every month to his former Indian wife, Christy. But his sad end with that beautiful Christian wife taught him a good lesson in life. Therefore, he decided not to spend a lot of money on the beautiful new Muslim Layla while she was in the land of infidels outside Islamic law. This secular law gives a wife the right to divorce her husband without any specific reason, and she's allowed to cheat on him openly without fear of being caught, convicted, and stoned to death with her adulterous boyfriend. However, a week later, Babakir met Rayhana again in the same restaurant where they had sat and talked before. He informed her that her Saudi sponsor had agreed to send her a new work visa and travel tickets for her and her daughter. He also told her that her sponsor had sent money so she could use it to obtain new passports. He explained to her that Sheikh Ahmed had informed him that Raihana's former passport had been stolen by the corrupt counter-terrorism police in Bombay at the time of her arrest and sold to another Indian woman. That woman came to Jeddah International Airport and claimed to be Raihana Khan. She was arrested by Jeddah police and confessed how she obtained Raihana's passport, work visa and ticket. The Saudi police considered the passport an invalid document due to forgery and sent it to the Indian consulate in Jeddah. For this reason, the real maid Raihana Khan needs to reissue her passport with the correct ID. Regarding her daughter's passport, the African boy advised Raihana not to go to the police to try to get her child's passport back because the police would either arrest her again or try to blackmail her, rape her, and take her money as well. After that, Babakar took out the 10,000 rupees from his pocket and gave it to her. Raihana had never seen such a large amount of money before. The largest amount of money she had ever received in her entire life was about 400 rupees. As a result, she is simply amazed and delighted at the same time. She thanked the Sudanese boy more than she thanked her Saudi sponsor, as if Babakar was the one who personally provided her with this huge sum. She told him that she needed someone to go with her to the passport office in Worli. Before Babakar could respond, she said that tomorrow she would go to the travel agency and ask the good boy Jamal Khan to take her to the passport office because he was the one who had helped her before. "Don't make that mistake again," Babakar shouted until Raihana jumped back. She thought the black guy had suddenly become a dangerous monster and wanted to attack and rape her, but before she could stand up and run away from him, Babakar spoke again. "Your sponsor has asked me to tell you never to go to Muhammad Khan tours and travels again. Moreover, Jamal Khan no longer works with them. Mr. Muhammad Khan's wife kicked him out. As for me, I don't work there anymore. I was also fired for no specific reason." The beautiful, beloved Raihana felt great sadness in her heart when she learned that her handsome lover Jamal no longer worked at the travel agency. The African boy Babakar also stated to her that her sponsor had asked him alone to help her prepare all the necessary papers for her travel abroad, and that this entire responsibility was now in his hands. So, he asked her to meet him the next day at the same restaurant so he could take her to the passport office. Raihana is not happy with the new arrangements, but she has no choice in the matter, so she agrees to meet her new assistant. The good Sudanese boy once again insisted that the beautiful Indian woman and her cute daughter should share the delicious food with him before they left. He also ordered some ready-made sandwiches and asked her to take them to her 5 children and her old mother. Babakar learned about Raihana's other children from his surprise nighttime visit to her small shack in the Dharavi slum. Before returning to her poor hut, the caring mother, Raihana, went to a small market and bought clothes, cookies, and candies for her 5 children. She also bought some dresses for her mother and daughter. This is the first time in her life that she has been able to buy new clothes for her family. Before that day, she would bring her children handmade clothes from whatever their employers no longer wanted. Oftentimes, clothes were either too big or too small for their children, but poor people cannot be picky. However, on this day, thanks to her Arab sponsor, Sugar Daddy, she chose the exact size for each of her children. She bought 4 beautiful dresses and 2 Barbie dolls for her beloved daughter as well. Because of the huge heavenly manna she received through Babakar, she went and called her employers and asked for indefinite leave. Some employers threatened to fire her if she did not show up for work. She didn't care and hung up the phone on them. She returned to her poor hut and fed her children with sandwiches that Babakar had bought for them. Then she showed them the beautiful new clothes she had bought for them with her own money. Finally, she opened the boxes of candies and biscuits, and her children jumped for joy and said, "Mama, you are the best mother in the whole world." While her children were still eating their sweets, Rayhana lied to her mother and daughter and told them that she would go to work in the homes of wealthy people. She did not tell her mother about the large amount of money she received from her wealthy Arab sponsor. She just took off and promised to return late in the evening. The beautiful Rayhana Khan is eager to reconnect with her handsome lover Jamal Khan and enjoy the same wonderful times they had together in downtown Bombay. She didn't believe the black boy when he told her that employee Jamal had been fired from his workplace and decided to find out for herself. She misses those loving, fun moments of hugs and warm, tender kisses. Despite everything she endured over the past 7 months, what she suffered even more was the loss of her handsome boyfriend, Jamal Khan. She realized that he had suffered greatly because of her, and wanted to apologize for his suffering because of a crime he had not committed either. This time her financial circumstances are different, and she will show him her deep love by letting her money do the talking. When Rayhana arrived in Colaba, it was 3:15 p.m. She doesn't have a watch. She asked someone for the time. She remembered Jamal telling her that he finishes work every day at 5 in the evening. According to her calculations, she had about an hour and a half to wait for him to appear. After that, she will be able to see her handsome lover leaving his office and heading home. She wants to surprise him. The beautiful Rayhana thought that the one-eyed black Negro had deliberately lied to her. She also suspected that her old Arab sponsor knew about the love affair she had with Jamal and decided to separate them. Somehow, it never occurred to her to ask herself why the black boy didn't want her to meet Jamal Khan, or why the old Saudi wanted to keep them apart. Rayhana waited impatiently across the street under the shade of a large tree. She doesn't want anyone from the travel agency where her boyfriend works to see her. She plans to follow her lover from behind, without him knowing until there is enough distance between them, and then she will approach him, put her hands on his face, close his eyes, and give him the biggest pleasant surprise of his life. The minutes seemed like hours, and her heart became so anxious for him that she began to walk up and down the street, stopping now and then to glance at the office door. Whenever she looked, she saw the doorman sitting on a wooden chair, like an angel of death holding a double-edged sword in his hand, guarding Heaven's Gate with a blank stare, stupidly watching the people and cars passing by. His little head swayed back and forth in a semicircle like a table fan. The beautiful girlfriend, Rayhana Khan, tends to approach him and asks him to enter the office and ask her handsome lover Jamal Khan to come out. But she has a nagging feeling that this might jeopardize his job with his evil boss. Finally, Rayhana saw the travel agency employees starting to leave one by one. She got to know most of them except for 2 new pretty girls. These 2 new girls were recruited by the lustful boss, Muhammad Khan himself, after his release from the bottomless pit of prison. He was terribly angry with his jealous and ugly wife when he discovered that in his absence she had fired his favorite employee, the beautiful and sexy girl Bulbula. The beautiful Rayhana couldn't see the handsome Jamal Khan among the staff, and the only man who appeared at the entrance was someone else. She remembered that she had seen that young man before, but she did not know his name. His name is Javed, and he is the only remaining male employee. Rayhana's heart began to beat in fear when she saw the 6 Indian girls and the Indian employee all walking out of the office and quickly blending into the crowded rush-hour crowd. She waited for her beloved Jamal to come out, but he didn't. A few minutes later, she saw Satan in the form of Muhammad Khan, the owner of the travel agency, sticking out his bald head as if he has 2 horns. He stood and spoke to the doorman before walking away and disappearing as well. By this time, the beautiful Rayhana had become so frustrated and her heart had started beating so hard inside her that she thought it would definitely jump out of her chest. At this moment, she felt like she had lost her love forever. This is the only paradise where she found him and knows that she must look for him, and this is his only place of work. When they met more than 7 months ago, he asked her to send him letters from Saudi Arabia to his work address. Her lover never took her to his place of residence. Rayhana's tears fell like the gates of heaven when she realized that she had lost her handsome lover forever. She has no other way to contact or find him. As her tears ran like a river down her cheeks, an idea flashed into her mind. She crossed the street and went straight to the doorman. He has just finished closing all the doors and is about to leave. Rayhana approached him and asked him about the young employee who was working there called Jamal Khan. The doorman recognized her immediately because he had seen her before many months ago, and through the many court sessions he had been accustomed to seeing her in handcuffs in the Bombay Criminal Court. He had heard from other female employees that the Indian employee Jamal Khan was expelled from the agency because he was having a love affair with her, and this was considered by the boss Muhammad Khan to be a conflict of interest at work and an unforgivable crime. "He doesn't work here anymore," the janitor replied sarcastically. Rayhana asked him to tell her the name and address of his new workplace. The janitor looked at her and said angrily, "How do I know his new place of work?" Rayhana: "When did Jamal stop coming to work?" Doorman: "He stopped coming when he got fired." Rayhana: "Why was he fired?" Doorman: "I heard the girls in the office saying that he was fired because he went to prison." The janitor intentionally lied to her about why Jamal Khan was fired from his job. Rayhana became incredibly angry and said to him, "Even the employer went to prison on the same false charge." Standing there alone, Rayhana felt as if she had been thrown onto a deserted island to live the rest of her life alone. She knew that no one else would fill the aching void in her heart the way her handsome lover Jamal did. She missed his love so much during her imprisonment. When she was acquitted of all false charges and released from prison, it was the needs of her children that distracted her from her immediate romantic desires. Inside, she was always waiting for the day when she could reunite with him and resume their wonderful love that had been interrupted for so long by their imprisonment. She now had enough money to take care of some of her family's needs, so she didn't have to worry too much about it. Now, love came aside, knocking on the door of her heart, and she could not ignore the desire to open the door and welcome it with all her being. But her handsome lover is not there, and she has no way to find his whereabouts, where he lives, or where he works. How could she find one person among 19 million others in a huge cosmopolitan city like Bombay? Rayhana's feet became as lifeless as the concrete asphalt street on which she was standing, and she now walked aimlessly, her tears obscuring her vision. She stumbled and collided with a few people who became angry, shouted at her and asked her to watch where she was going. She almost fell off the sidewalk when a kind woman caught her just in time by the shoulders and prevented her from falling off the sidewalk. The kind woman asked her if she was okay and told her to try to be careful where she walked. She then warned her that if she fell into such a crowded place, she would be trampled under thousands of feet and die a horrific death in the stampede. No one would know she is dead because those who would trample her with thousands of feet leave their workplaces in a hurry and rush to catch local trains to return home. Fortunately, Rayhana listened to the good advice of the kind lady and started walking with great care. It took her 3 hours to return to the Dharavi slum where she lives. Her heart is heavy with sadness because she lost the love of her life. A few weeks after her papers are reissued, she will travel by plane to the rich Arab country, and with her work visa, she will be away for 2 long years. She will not be able to send messages to her lover because she does not know his new address, place of work, or place of residence. That night, the beloved Rehana could not sleep and stayed awake all night, mourning the loss of her beloved Jamal, while her tears fell like heavy raindrops on her empty pillow. Chapter 25. Continuing the meticulous search for the missing lover. The next day, early in the morning, Rehana forced her exhausted body to get out of bed and get dressed. She went to the restaurant where the black Negro boy asked her to meet him. When Babakir saw her coming towards him, he thought she had lost one of her children and had been crying all night. It seems like something drastic happened overnight. She was no longer smiling as she had been the day before, and she was no longer the same simple, innocent, beautiful woman he had known. She looked incredibly sad or sick, as if she was going to die at any moment. Babakir welcomed her and tried to find out what happened, but she remained calm. She's not in the mood to talk about anything. The young African man decided not to put any more pressure on her, for fear that she would burst into tears at any moment. He just asked her to come with him to the passport office. She stood up and followed him silently as if he was leading her to a funeral procession to bury her handsome, deceased lover, Jamal Khan. At the passport office, Babakir claimed that Rehana was one of his clients and that he wanted to reissue her passport. He knows all about the procedures from his previous work in the travel agency of Muhammad Khan. Before they arrived at the passport office, he convinced Rehana to say that her passport and her daughter's passport had been stolen while they were heading to the international airport. They probably lost them in the taxi that took them to the airport. Normally, when someone claims that his passport has been stolen, he must bring an official letter from the police authority stating that he has filed a complaint. However, this procedure was not required of Rehana and her daughter because the smart Sudanese foreign student had already entered 500 rupees in each application. In this particular case, the legal requirement was waived. The person accepting the application looked at Rehana familiarly, but couldn't place her face among the hundreds of applicants he saw every day. They were told that it would take 3 months for their applications to be processed and their passports reissued. Those 3 months were reduced to 3 weeks when Babakir took out a few thousand rupees from his pocket and placed them under the 2 applications. After that, he tried to reduce the period to a week, but the passport officer said that this was not possible. The African boy carelessly spends on applications to reissue the 2 lost passports because the old Saudi man tells him no matter how much he spends on the travel papers for his valuable Indian maid and her cute daughter, he will make up for it. Babakir and Rehana were about to leave the office, but the passport officer stopped them and asked the mother, "Did you change your address, or is it the same as it was before?" Rehana looked at the Sudanese boy and said, "I don't have an address." The officer raised his eyebrows with a serious look and asked, "How did you get a passport without an address?" Rehana replied, "I live in a poor hut. We have no addresses in those poor huts." The officer replied, "Then how did you get a passport? A passport cannot be issued without an address." The Sudanese boy felt a snake in the bush, so he tried to stop any further inquiry about her address. He fears Rehana and her daughter's passports will not be reissued if they cannot show how she obtained the passports in the first place. He understood that Sheikh Ahmed might kill him if his Indian maid, the beautiful Layla, was prevented from coming to him for something as small as an address. "So," he said calmly, "Sir, the last time their passports were most likely issued with the address of the travel agency listed. Can you check her previous applications?" "But what is the name of that travel agency?" "Muhammad Khan Tourism and Travel." The Sudanese boy accidentally shot himself in the foot when he mentioned the name of the damned travel agency, Muhammad Khan Tours and Travel, of his evil former boss. The passport officer immediately remembered that Rayhana Khan had come before with an employee of that agency and had obtained her and her daughter's passports. But he decided not to tell her that he remembered her and recognized her. He started looking for her previous papers to find out exactly what address she had given the last time. It took the passport officer 20 minutes to find the old papers for the mother and her daughter Ifat. Then he came and shouted at Rayhana, "Why did you say you don't have an address? This is the address you wrote last time. It is the address in a slum house in Andheri Lokhandwala Chaul." When the passport officer mentioned this address to her dear lover, Jamal Khan, the beautiful beloved Rayhana Khan lit up like a Christmas tree in the month of December. Suddenly, a switch lit a fire in her dying heart. The light of love illuminated her eyes, and she became as beautiful and sexy as before. Her wounded heart was now filled with intense joy at the prospect of finding her lost, handsome lover. God opened doors for her where they were closed. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed with joy. "I forgot that I had previously given the address of my cousin Jamal, who lives in the huts of Andheri Lokhandwala Chaul." The officer said seriously, "So this is your address?" Rayhana, "Yes, sir, this is my permanent address." The passport officer asked her about anything else and spoiled the happiness that had bubbled up like a fountain of erotic love inside her heart. Rayhana asked him to write the address of her handsome cousin, Jamal Khan, on a piece of paper so that she could tell him when her and her daughter's passports would arrive, so that he can expect the passports to arrive at his home from the passport office. The passport officer wrote down her lover's address and gave it to her. If it weren't for the people standing around her, Rayhana would have kissed the paper and hugged it tightly to her chest before hiding it inside her bra between her breasts, which looked like two large pomegranates. She does not have a handbag or purse and keeps her valuables inside her bra. She could not hide her happiness and joy and shone at the Sudanese boy with a wide smile and winked at him with her beautiful black eyes. She also bit her white teeth on her sexy lower lip and slowly released it. The young black Negro, Babakir al-Aawar, was surprised and greatly surprised by her sudden change in mood and her flirtatious movements. He suddenly thought that the exceptionally beautiful Indian maid Rayhana had fallen in love with him and realized how much she needed him to hold her in his arms and kiss her lips. Finally, she appreciates him as a man of worth and expresses her strong emotional alertness towards him with her beautiful eyes and sexy lips. The so-called African Negro felt as if he were the hero, the black slave, Antar ibn Shaddad, and Rayhana was the beautiful white Arab girl whose lover wrote about her, one of the 7 renowned poems known as Mu'allaqat of Antar. He even felt a powerful erection, and his cock was flying like a Ramadan cannon when he pictured himself having sex in bed with her sexy body and enjoying her tight pussy, her big breasts, and her large naked buttocks. He also expressed the possibility of meeting her on the shore of the Arabian Sea, on Marine Drive, on the Queen's Necklace, and kissing her on the lips. One-eyed Babakir recalled seeing her several times while her handsome Indian lover Jamal Khan was hugging and kissing her. The brown-eyed African lover, Babakir al-Aawar, may not hesitate for a moment to get rid of his ugly girlfriend Jamila if his new, beautiful and sexy lover, Rayhana, agrees to start a love relationship with him. She looks 1,000,000 times more beautiful than the ugly Indian girl Jamila, whom he loves but who does not love him. This beautiful and gorgeous Indian girl, like Rayhana in his country, will be deified by people as the Greek goddess Aphrodite and worshipped as the goddess of love and beauty, Helen, the beloved of Paris. The two imaginary new lovers then walked out of the passport office where they were supposed to say goodbye to each other, but first they had to discuss the day they would meet again 3 weeks later, and after their passports arrived in the mail, at her cousin Jamal Khan's address. But the beautiful Rayhana just left and almost flew in the air without thanking the African Babakir or saying goodbye to him. The black Sudanese boy was upset by her rude behavior towards him and her lack of manners. He immediately jumped to the conclusion that she was biased against him because of his black skin color, and he felt terribly angry after everything he did to help her, even by bribing the passport officer with his share of the money he got from her Arab sponsor, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed. His dignity was shattered to pieces, and his hope of meeting her again and kissing her on the lips on the seashore was dashed. He hopes to fuck her sexy body on the bed. So, his wounded pride drove him to yell at her before she could get any further. "Why are you running away like that, without saying thank you or goodbye? Do you think that I am a servant who must do your work whether I like it or not?" "I'm so sorry, my dear brother. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm in a hurry to get back to the kids. I am deeply sorry that I left without thanking you or saying goodbye. Please forgive me, brother. I am so grateful to you for everything you did to help me. You are an exceptionally good boy." Well, that sweet apology made me feel good. "Anyway, we have to meet again to make your overseas flight booking to Saudi Arabia. I can book your flight with your daughter before you get your passports. If you want me to do that, I need to see you in 2 days. Will you be able to meet me in 2 days at the same restaurant at the same time?" "Yes, of course I can do that. I will meet you in 2 days at the same Indian restaurant where you served me delicious meals with my beloved daughter Ifat, and also bought sandwiches for my dear 5 sons." Rayhana mentioned the food he bought for her and her children because she wanted to make him happy and make him forgive her for hurting his feelings. Then she waited for Babakir to speak further, but when she saw him turn his face in the opposite direction and begin to walk away, she felt free to set out to carry out the plan of finding the love she missed so much. She will not prevent her handsome lover Jamal, even if he wants to kiss her in an open place in front of his doorstep. She believes that she is the private property of her handsome Jamal, and that he has the right to do whatever he wants with her body. With a joyful heart and great expectations, Rayhana flew to Andheri area and ended up in Lokhandwala Chaul, where the street and address of her lover were listed on a small white sheet of paper kept safely inside her bra between her breasts. The complex of Lokhandwala is the most beautiful and expensive shopping center in Bombay. Only Bollywood film stars and wealthy Indians can shop there. However, there are millions of slum huts everywhere surrounding the metropolis except downtown Bombay and a few other local areas like Colaba, Churchgate, Nariman Point, Cave Parade, Malabar Hills, etc. The beautiful complex of Lokhandwala was surrounded by millions of dirty and poor huts, like a rainbow around the sun. Jamal Khan's address indicated that his small hut was buried somewhere behind the beautiful buildings of the Lokhandwala complex. Rayhana asked several destitute people to show her directions to the place written on a piece of paper as she made her way through the crowded huts. Finally, her legs took her to her lover's chawl hut. It took her an hour and a half to travel by bus, local train, and auto rickshaw until she reached her real man's hut. Before she received the 10,000 rupees from her rich old Arab sponsor Sugar Daddy, the Indian maid Rayhana Khan rarely sat in an auto rickshaw. An auto rickshaw is something between a taxi and transporting domestic animals such as donkeys and horses. There are 2 types of rickshaws in India, motor rickshaws and wheel rickshaws. The first rickshaw was a motorbike converted into a mini taxi. The second rickshaw is a tricycle that is designed and used for transportation. In China, there is something worse than that called human rickshaw. It is a human being transformed into an animal and used by the rich to carry them from one place to another, a form of abuse and slavery of humans. The delightful, beloved Rayhana felt extremely happy and had an orgasm, despite her fatigue from the long journey. Her long, smooth legs finally reached her lover's doorstep. Jamal had already informed her that he had 3 sisters and 6 brothers, in addition to his sick mother. All his 9 siblings are younger than him. Rayhana expected that one of her 3 sisters or 6 brothers would open the door for her and greet her with the Islamic greeting, "Peace be upon you," and then she will ask her or him to call and summon her lover, Jamal Khan. She knocked on the door of the little hut with her hand and waited. While she waited, she was surrounded by 6 stray dogs and 15 miserable children. The children were extremely dirty and smelled of urine and feces, smelling worse than the smell of the hungry, skinny animals around them, and they appeared to her like wretches in their dirty rags and emaciated bodies. They looked like they were playing in the mud and dirt and swimming in the gutter, and then were allowed out of the filth to wander the streets. It is a wonder if they are still alive or not dead sick. Rayhana heard the door of the hut slowly open. A woman stood in the doorway. She doesn't look thin or sick. She is fat and short, and behind her is a man standing a little taller than her short stature. The large woman is so obese that the man behind her looks like her baby. The fat woman extended her right hand and shook it 3 or 4 times, a gesture understood in India as, "What do you want?" The fat woman's mouth is full of Indian pan. Her big mouth is full of those green and red leaves of tobacco, and she can hardly speak. The visitor, Rayhana, politely asked the woman, "I am looking for Mr. Jamal Khan." The fat woman had to spit out the red pan from her mouth, which looked like vomit or a dirty diaper. Some of it fell on Rayhana's shoe, turning her shoe red from the spit. One of the famous Egyptian journalists visited India, and when he saw Indians chewing and spitting the pan everywhere without caring where it landed, he described them as the people who menstruate from their mouths. "Who is Jamal Khan?" The woman screamed after she was able to open her mouth and speak. "My friend Jamal Khan gave me this address and asked me to come and meet his sisters and mother. There is no one named Jamal Khan living here in this hut." The fat woman continued in a louder voice, like the voice of an angry ogre. "We are Hindus, and no Muslims live with us." The short man behind her came out and said to Rayhana, "Do you mean the Muslim family that used to live here?" Before the beautiful visitor, Rayhana, could answer his question, he continued the conversation with a voice like a dog howling on a dark night. "The Muhammadan Khan family sold their hut to us last year and moved to some slum area in Mumbai. We do not know about their new location." Rayhana listened to those words that came out of his mouth as if they were poisonous arrows that flew and pierced her heart. Each word, one after another, shot out like an arrow, hitting and penetrating her depths, reaching even the bottom of her liver and kidneys. Tears flowed from her beautiful eyes, and she wanted to cry and scream at him in protest and objection, but somehow she hid her pain and was able to control herself, and did not want to reveal the state of her broken heart in public to all the miserable men, women, and children gathered around her like a mob. Most of them thought she was a movie star who came out of the silver screen and miraculously appeared in the middle of their poor huts. The supposedly beautiful film actress Rayhana Khan lowered her face to hide her tears, then turned her head and body and began to walk away, while the stray dogs and emaciated children followed her as if they were her entourage of admirers.